Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. I'm your host, obviously, Katie Mox. We are here at the Super Bowl Media Center Radio Row Caesars Sportsbook booth, and I'm here with Trysta Krick. I'm so excited to have you. She is the host of BetQL tonight. No, BetMGM tonight. BetQL is also on it. WFAN and Heat Check with Trysta Krick. How you doing, sister?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. This is a phenomenal vibe. Just, you guys, I think, got the best booth in the area.
I think so too. It definitely has a lot of good vibes. I feel like people kind of congregate around here, which I always appreciate. So you tweeted something the other day about your journey and how you got here, and I found it so interesting. One, as a woman in sports, and then two, sports gambling is such a new space, and there's so many people that want to get involved, but don't necessarily know how. And your journey started here in Arizona in kind of a roundabout way in finance. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. I was on the plane coming here, and I was just thinking about how long it's taken to get to this place. And I was like, oh my God, 2008 was the Super Bowl in Arizona when I was a senior in college. And I went to school for finance. I was interviewing.
You're going to be a finance bro.
I was going to be a finance bro, a finance sis. And I grew up with a single mom, so she wanted me, and I wanted to have, a stable career. And performing was always my love. Entertaining was always my love. But I never really thought that I could do it. So I'm interviewing to be a broker at Wells Fargo.
Wow. I can't imagine you as a broker.
Oh, I was terrible. I was trying to do all this, And they're like, Trysta, you're inappropriate. You can't wear this at a bank, So that's 2008. I went to the Waste Management Open, which used to be called the Phoenix Open.
Okay.
Got to experience the vibe of the city. Loved it. My grandmother was living here at the time. She's one of my favorite people in the world. So I went and stayed with her, interviewed. I'm like, man, how cool would it be to cover this thing? How cool would it be to be around all of this celebrity? And the Waste Management Open, also star-studded too.
Oh, and I heard it's just a party the entire
time. Entire time. So that's 2008. I move here, I become a broker for Wells Fargo.
Wow.
And it probably took me a few months to realize, at least slightly, this is probably not, I envisioned this being my life forever, that life. And I'm like, that can't be my life forever.
Right.
No chance.
Right.
So tried to figure out a way to really change that. And I was like, well, maybe, I was starting in the height of the financial crisis, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wells Fargo stock dropped 50%. When I got into the building. They thought it was like me as a bad omen. They're like, today our stock dropped the lowest it ever has. Your first day coinciding. Wow. So that was hard. I mean, just doing the job at that time was really hard. So I went to a smaller firm in Portland, moved back to where I grew up.
Okay.
I was dating a guy at the time and making phone calls, just doing phone sales for finance.
Wow.
200 dials a day.
200 dials a day?
200 dials a day. So I'm really good at rejection. I'm really good at just calling.
So you were prepared for this then?
Yeah. I mean, that was really what helped.
Okay.
So I would call and try to get people to set meetings with our financial firm, people who had never reached out to us, people who had no idea who I was.
Full-on cold call.
Full-on, yeah. Hey, this is Trysta Krick from Fisher Investments. Just want to know if you're evaluating your money management options. No. And they're like, click. And the things that they say to you, crazy, They call you all kinds of names.
Yeah.
So that was in 2010 to 2012. I ended up leaving that job in 2012. My high school teacher, who was my radio broadcasting teacher in high school.
Okay.
So I went to a magnet school.
Oh, I was going to say.
Yeah, they had a program, and so he wanted me to be following that career. And I was like, no. And he would constantly Facebook message me. That was how we communicated.
Yeah.
Hey, if you ever want to change careers, just let me know. If you ever want to go back into it,
Wow.
let me know. And that was maybe...
First of all, that's amazing.
Really
cool. He kept tabs on you and was like, I know you're not in the right place.
Like trying to nudge me onto the right lane, trying to nudge me. So I finally did. I said, okay, I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
That was 2012. I went to a broadcasting clinic in LA and met someone who was the sideline reporter for the Blazers.
Wow.
And he introduced me to the new EP for the Comcast Sportsnet in Portland. And I said, hey, you guys don't have a sideline reporter for your college team, Portland State, which is D1 AA, Big Sky. Why don't I do it?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I'd never done anything like that before. I had just done this broadcasting clinic, So from then on, I just went on my laptop and on my iPad, And I tried to emulate everything that like Diana Rossini and
Yes, love her.
Kim Jones. I would watch NFL Network all day and try to do what they did. It was not really the best for me because it was it's so regimented, you know, and it's so by the book.
Yes.
And it's like, I was like,
It's a little cookie cutter.
Back to you, Bob, you know?
Yeah.
So did that, and it was an amazing experience. Got to be embedded with the team, all that. But I was doing it for free. So, you know, at this point, you're trying to just build a
So are you still cold calling?
No, I left finance and said I'm never going back.
Okay.
I worked for a gym. I
Okay.
folded towels at a bar method.
Wow.
I worked at a juice bar. There was all these like odd jobs that
Yeah.
I did to try to. I worked at Nike as a freelancer for a little bit as well, and then I ended up between seasons caddied back at the golf course in Oregon that I grew up and caddied in when I was in college, and it's actually started because I didn't buy my grandmother a birthday card.
Ooh.
And my grandmother, I knew that the birthday was coming. Her birthday's on 9/9, and it was like 9/6. And I'm like, oh, the card's not
Virgo.
card's not gonna get there in time.
Oh.
So my friend was driving from Oregon back to Phoenix, and I was like, let me just catch a ride with you. Instead of getting her card,
That
I'll
is
see her.
so sweet.
Yeah, she was my ace.
Oh.
And we stopped in LA on the way, and someone that I knew was working at Fox.
Wow.
And I showed him my reel, and he said, you need to move to LA. So I said, like, when? And he goes, immediately, as soon as you can. And I moved without telling a soul. As soon as that trip was over, I moved. Packed up my car.
You didn't even tell grandma?
Didn't tell grandma, didn't tell my mom.
Wow.
And my mom calls me, and she's like, hey, Puka Shell, where are you at? And I was like, I'm at the Grapevine. And she's like, is that a bar? And I said, no, it's the Grapevine. I'm about to be in LA. I'm moving here. She hung up. It was she was just very stressed. I mean, I had no job. I had no place to stay. And ended up just kind of staying on floors and couches. And
You said, in your tweet, you said it was like couchsurfer.com or something?
Yeah,
That's a thing?
couchsurfer.com. That's the thing. People from all over the world will create this community where they essentially stay. It's like an Airbnb, only, you know, you're staying in someone's house and they're there.
And you're on their couch.
Yeah, and they actually gave me an air mattress.
Okay.
And then eventually just gave me a bedroom of theirs because they were partying. It was in the middle of like downtown LA. They're partying.
Wow.
I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to find a job. They're like, do you just want our bedroom? Yes, actually.
I do. Yes,
yeah.
thank you.
I'm like making juice with my Vitamix. I brought my Vitamix in there. It was so insane. So I ended up getting an assistant job through someone that I met on couchsurfer.com. I'm doing that. Working for this like upscale juice bar in LA, and I'm caddying at all the way out in the valley.
So you're a caddy
I
as
was
well.
caddying as
Cool.
well, just trying to like figure it all out. And eventually I met an agent who said, you need to cold call everyone in the industry or email them.
And you have experience doing that. So
Yeah,
you're like, let's go.
president and up only just people who can make decisions. They can't ask anyone else. They can't be in that role.
Yeah.
And I think I made 250 calls and continued to dial, It took 3 years. Almost gave up. I was like very close to giving up.
Wow.
I remember my mentor from Wells Fargo called me and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I think I'm done. I think I'm going to become a fitness trainer. I think I'm going to become an influencer on Instagram. And he was like, no, you need to just like give it another 6 months. And within that time period, I got the job at USA Today.
Wow.
And that was its own journey. But yeah, that was like the beginning. And it started right here. And I kind of knew while I was here. And it's just surreal.
To be coming back now in this moment. So you're at USA Today.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go over to Barstool.
Mm-hmm.
And at Barstool, I feel like that's when you really blew up.
Yep. I think the profile expanded a lot there. And the thing that, I covered 4 Super Bowls for USA Today, interviewed some of the biggest names in sports, right? You're interviewing Pat Mahomes before he becomes Pat Mahomes. You're interviewing Kelsey,
You were saying, I was listening to you the other day, and you said that you actually turned down an interview with Patrick Mahomes because he wasn't anybody at that point?
So, Lee Steinberg I think he still represents Mahomes.
Uh-huh.
And this is before Mahomes gets drafted. So this is February 2016, 17, somewhere. I think maybe February 2017. All of them blur together.
Yeah.
And Lee comes up to our booth and he goes, hey, I've got this stud. He's about to get drafted. His name's Patrick Mahomes. And I'm covering current NFL.
Yes.
I'm not like a draft analyst.
Yes.
So I get on my laptop and he's projected to go early second round. And I'm like, we already have all these real stars who are stars right now. I'm doing 15 of these interviews a day, and I look at my producer and we're like, let's just pass.
Yeah. And now he's Patrick Mahomes.
So fast forward, I actually ended up interviewing him right when the trade went down, the Alex Smith trade.
Oh, okay.
Interviewed Kelsey first, and then it's so funny because Kelsey's gone on his own podcast and said he knew Pat Mahomes was going to be a star, right? Everybody says that.
Yeah, of
he
course.
says like, oh yeah, we knew.
It's like the LeBron James syndrome.
We knew when he was on the scout team that he was special. These are lies. These are lies.
You heard it here.
These are lies. I talked to him right when that trade went down, and he goes, my Alex Smith was, the only quarterback I've really had in the NFL, and I've had my best years with him. I trust him. I love him. Pat Mahomes has, I think he was Patrick at the time. Patrick has huge shoes to fill, and I'm not sure if he's going to.
Actually came out of his mouth.
Yeah, he has huge shoes to fill was the quote. And I was like, oh, yeah, teammates are still a little, on the fence about this.
Yeah.
And then I think Pat came on maybe the next day, very humble. You weren't really sure. You read athletes out and see, what their demeanor is, whether you can forecast them as being some star. Obviously, Alex Smith was doing really, really well in Kansas City. So, yeah, it was tremendous. And then interviewed him again when he was on the cover of Madden.
Okay.
Like a one-on-one.
Did you ever have the conversation with him like, yo, I passed on you once?
I haven't divulged that to him, but I would. I think it was just such a busy time. But I think all of that to say is you're doing all of this for USA Today, and then the views that we would get and the traction that we would get just wouldn't line up with, I felt like, the quality of the content that we were making.
Yeah.
And I just never felt like I was a journalist.
Right.
I got in trouble because I was like, guys, I'm not a journalist.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
You're
think
a personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said that to them, and they're like, we don't have those at a journalistic organization. You need to abide by all these ethics and guidelines. And I'm like, I don't want to.
You're not, you can. I mean, I don't know you very well, but I've been following you for a while, and I've gone on your show a few times. I don't think you could put you in a box necessarily.
That's
I feel like you're not cookie cutter at all. You're very authentic. You're super sassy. You're very knowledgeable about sports, but you also kind of mix in entertainment and entertainment value into it, which I feel like when you're in one of those traditional roles, the entertainment value isn't there. You're just there to deliver the facts and get the most out of somebody else. But you're like, hello, excuse me.
Yeah,
I'm here too.
I need to be interviewed.
Yeah.
And there's obviously some level of wild arrogance to that thought, right?
Everybody in this business has a bit of wild arrogance.
Some of it, right? You're like, I don't want them to I don't want to just be interested in them. I want them to be interested about me, and I feel like we have things to say. And so I think the industry has changed a lot over the last 5 years, where women are able to be opinionists. Joy Taylor, who I love, she's been on the show a few times as well. I mean, she's really groundbreaking, to be an opinionist first and to lead with that unapologetically. And then more and more, I realized that I wanted that.
Yeah.
And I wanted that to be not just what I did, but I wanted to inject humor into it.
Yep.
Because I feel like it sort of softens all of it. And there's just a level of lunacy and ludicrousness in sports in general that nobody really points out.
Yes. So how'd you get into the gambling side of it? So you're at USA Today in more of a traditional role.
Yep.
You go to Barstool, which I do want to touch on Barstool for a second, because it seems like, one, a very fun place to live, but also work.
It felt like I was living there.
Yeah.
I did end up living there for surviving Barstool for 5 days.
Okay.
I stayed in the office. Yeah, I couldn't leave.
Okay, so you did live there. But working there, but that also seems like maybe like a little scary place to work too, because it just seems like everybody's jobs it's like there's no HR, or maybe there is. It doesn't feel like there is.
Right. Yeah, they give you a laptop and they tell you to just make stuff.
Okay.
And so that's very daunting, right? And you don't realize when that's your task how that's going to affect how your content is going to affect those that you're around.
Right.
And so maybe you want to start an NBA podcast, for example, like hypothetically.
Yep.
And RIP this league. And maybe other people have tried to get NBA podcasts greenlit that you have no idea about.
Right. And then yours gets greenlit.
And maybe theirs happened years before you even arrived.
Right.
And they consider themselves to be the expert on the space for that company. And now you've inadvertently made someone mad. And
you're a woman.
And maybe they already don't like you, or they don't like your opinions about their athletes because they feel that you're a hot take artist, which I felt was, by the way, that terminology being used in Barstool was so wild because it's like that's what this place is. Like, have you seen Dave Portnoy? Like, he is the hot take artist about all things. So, yeah, it was crazy. It was a really great learning experience, though, because, and I said this to some people from my current company at Odyssey and BetQL, you realize there that the only thing that matters is your social footprint.
There. Or just in general.
And I think the business.
In this space,
right? It was like you will be judged. People will look at your Twitter. People will look at your Instagram. People will look at your TikTok, and they will look at the number. And you as a human, you as a personality.
Are worth that number.
You are judged based on that number, so you better fix it.
Yeah. That's so, I agree. So my story is like a little bit different than yours, and I definitely want to get into how you got into gambling, but I was working in public relations for 15 years in fashion. I went to fashion school.
I can see that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I went to fashion school, and I worked in PR, and I'd been doing it for so long, and I was there for 15 years, but I was really unhappy, kind of similar to what you said in what I was doing, but I didn't know how to get out of it because I had worked myself up to a certain level. I'd been doing it for so long. I was good at it, but I didn't like it. I wasn't my passion. And kind of similar to you, like I always felt like I was a little bit of an entertainer myself, and being in front of the camera and certainly talking about sports was something that I wanted to do. But I thought, well, I didn't go to broadcast school, and I didn't go to local news and the local market, and I didn't do all of these things. So there's just no way that I could kind of come into this space. And I met this guy, Bob Menery, who is, I don't know if you know who he is. He's got like a couple million.
That name rings a bell.
He is a comedian commentator where he's got like a newscaster's voice, and so he does crude videos, or he did at least for a while, about like what announcers are really thinking. So he would have plays from a game, and he would just be like, oh my god, really, really funny. Had a couple million followers, and he was getting a podcast with Kevin Connolly's podcast company, which I believe is called Action, I don't know. Anyways, it was called the Ripper Magoo podcast. And they were looking for a girl in Los Angeles that was knowledgeable about sports.
Wow.
And I didn't follow this guy. I had no idea, but a bunch of my friends did. And so I had probably like 5 people send it to me being like, you would be great at this. And I remember I looked at it, I was like, you know what? I would be great at this. I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring here. And I didn't think I would hear from him. He had like 2 million followers. I get back. He gets back to me. I go through the whole kind of audition process, which was pretty loosey-goosey, to be honest. And it was between me and this other girl. I lose the role. But she is a professional soccer player and has 100,000 followers on Instagram, and like was like a bronze medalist in soccer. And so I'm like, okay, if you're going to lose to somebody, sure.
And to your point, I think the former athletes always and they, and I get that, you know, like that makes sense to me. But for the women in this space that haven't been athletes and don't have huge social media followings, it can be a little bit daunting, right?
Totally daunting. And it seems like such a hard space to get into too. So anyways, I don't get the role. And he's like, but we kind of like you. You know, he was like, they had this other account at the time that was gambling. They was like, do you know anything about sports betting or sports gambling? I said, no, but I can learn. I can figure it out. And so I did. I started creating content for them and getting into sports gambling. And then I really, really liked it. And I found out that I was actually pretty good at it. And I only worked with them for a short amount of time. That was kind of like a volatile situation. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to take over this Katie Mox Bets account, and it started as just like a passion project for myself and a creative outlet for myself. Then the pandemic happened. I got laid off from my job.
Where were you working then?
So I transitioned actually into film PR.
Okay.
Because I thought...
So you were still kind of straddling the lines a little bit.
Straddling the lines a bit, and I thought maybe it was just fashion.
You're smarter than me, because I just left. I just left and did nothing else. You were like, I'm going to still have a steady income.
Well, I could, but at this point, I'm older, though, right? Because I've been doing it for 10 years. It's scarier when you're older. When you're younger, you'd be like, I'm going to sleep on couches and do all of this stuff. But then all of a sudden, when you've been making good money, you're like, what am I going to do? Go sleep on somebody's couch now? My parents would be like, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
But yeah, so I started creating the content, doing it. And then I got laid off from my job because I was working in film. No movies were coming out during the pandemic, so clearly no need for PR and marketing for those.
Yeah.
And I just said to myself, I said, you know what? You can actually do this. And you could figure it out and put your because there's no way that I could have worked full time in PR and tried to become a sports media.
Moxie Bets.
Yeah, it just couldn't have happened.
To do that.
And I created a website for myself. I changed my LinkedIn and my resume to be all sports betting focused. And I just started, like similar to you, not cold calling, cold emailing is what
Yep.
I did. I wasn't as strong as you are to actually cold call, but cold emailing and just like sending my reel that my friend and I had created from me talking on streets about betting. You know, it's just not even professional at all. And then I got the MSG job, and then now all of a sudden I'm here at the Super Bowl with. I mean, it's crazy.
It's
So how did
incredible.
you get into sports betting?
It's funny, really quickly, I was thinking about your Man on the Street videos, and it
Yes.
made me think about a real turning point and a pivot from trying to do sideline reporting and trying to do this buttoned up style, and how I ended up transitioning to just being me.
Yeah.
I remember I was selling Herbalife
Wow.
in LA because I had to figure it out, and part of their deal in LA was they were content creators, because a lot of people in
Yeah.
LA that do Herbalife were former singers, actors, actresses, people who are dancers. So it was all very performance based.
Okay.
Like their path to selling
Yes.
powder
Yes.
and tea was these videos that they would make to get huge traction. And so I had my reel, my sideline reporting reel,
Yeah.
right? But then I was making videos for Facebook and Instagram.
Just you.
That was like, it was me doing push-ups. I would go and do these push-up challenges, and I would go to I would do them. It was called Get 'em in anywhere. And so when I would go to the gas station, I'd film myself at the gas station doing push-ups.
Wow.
When I'd go to the AutoZone getting something, I would film myself doing push-ups. Go to the juice bar, film myself doing push-ups. And I would make rap. So I used to do music when I was a child and a young adult.
Okay.
And so I would write raps. And so that was a hip-hop career that I had. Totally different life, different thing. Yeah,
You had a hip hop career?
Yeah, we'll talk about it another time. So I would make rap videos that you can find. They're very Googleable.
Oh, I'm going to.
And about Herbalife. And so I had this guy, Doug, who was running Fox Sports South, and I was introduced to him, and he kept deleting the email that I was sending him with my reel, like maybe 5 or 6 times. We finally get on the phone, and he's like, so I deleted your reel again. Oh, God. He's like, so I don't have anything to give you on that, any information or any feedback. But I YouTubed you. I found your push-up videos. I found your rap videos.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, my God, no.
And he loved it.
That's not for you. That's really not for you,
Yeah.
you know? And he goes, no. This is going to change your life.
Wow.
He said, you need to be that.
Yeah.
Don't be the people that you see on NFL Network.
Yep.
There's a million of them.
Yes.
We can, with production, I could give you a nice camera, but I have all that. I don't have whatever you're doing on YouTube right now. So I don't know if we're going to hire you. I don't know if we have bandwidth or budget, because you know how regional sports networks are.
Yeah.
But what I need you to know is to lean into that. And I did.
And that must have just felt so good, too, because you were just doing this random thing and you didn't know if it was going to stick. And I agree with you and with him that authenticity is really the only thing that matters, and how unique you are and however you deliver things. Because you're right, there is a bunch of people that are in those roles, but it is very cookie cutter, and that's just not your personality.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to fit into that
It
box,
just seems wrong. You see it and you're like, that's not her.
Yeah.
She's like, blink twice if you're being held hostage. You know what I mean? And I did look like that.
Okay, so you're at Barstool.
Yep.
Heat Check started there, I'm assuming.
Yep, it was called This League. And
This League.
and that was created after the pandemic sort of settled down in January 2021. But before that, right when sports came back, right, the bubble was happening.
Right.
And I think women's sports started first.
Yes.
The wobble.
Yes.
So I started betting on the WNBA.
Okay.
And I said
I
to
love
a
that you
friend,
started with women's
Yep.
sports. Yeah.
And I really care about the representation of
Yep.
my sport. I grew up playing basketball.
Okay.
So, and I was been a fan of the WNBA, but never really watched it consistently because you
It's
just
not
never
available
know.
to watch?
Yeah, it's just never know when it's on.
Yeah.
And so me and a friend who's been betting for 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, we should do a challenge where we bet against one another for the WNBA. We
Okay.
created spreadsheets. We bet every game
Okay.
and pick the side for every single WNBA game. And we were either tie or I was up, and he's like, you're like pretty good at this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you saw that
Yeah.
Brittany Griner, we don't know where she is, and they haven't adjusted the line for that yet.
Yeah.
And he was like,
You should do this.
this is like, you should probably do this more.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing it for the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I got really attracted to parlays. I think probably the finance
That's the entry
background.
point for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I can just pick like a couple of like outright winners and maybe one spread. Miami Dolphins at the time were this really slept on team with Brian Flores 2 years ago, I think 3 years ago it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, them and the Steelers being over a touchdown underdogs, like, we should take them outright. I think they're going to win these games outright. So I hit some really big parlays early on to really get my just juices
That's always
flowing.
how it happens, and then you start losing, right? Because you're like, oh my God, gambling is easy.
This is so easy. Oh my God.
I like hit all my parlays.
Like everything always works for me. I just know exactly what I'm doing. No, so I ended up doing that, and so it was WNBA, NFL, and then NBA. So that's kind of how the season turned out, you know, with the calendar. And I just really enjoyed it.
Right.
I enjoyed player props, which felt very much like fantasy.
To me, it's just so much more. One, it's more fun to watch when you've got a little skin in the game. And then also, it's just made me so much more knowledgeable about sports and other teams. Because I always grew up a 49er fan. I could tell you everything about the 49ers. I could tell you everything about the NFC West. But when it came to the AFC or different players, I just didn't know that much about them. And now I just feel like I have a much better knowledge of the entire league.
And you knew, it was funny because Barstool approaches gambling or sports betting in an entertainment, you don't have to be good kind of way. And I was like, well, that's great. I don't like to lose money, though. Right. And I don't have money to lose.
Yes.
So I would do all the analysis for myself and wouldn't really deliver it. And I gave out picks on the blog, and I wrote about the WNBA on the blog, but I was kind of afraid, and I was a little bit blocked out from the betting space. Because truthfully, it's kind of a old boys club, right?
Yes.
Like, or a young boys club, and that happened. It happens everywhere to a degree, but it happened a lot for me.
Yeah.
And I think that I wasn't a big enough name in the space where people were a little bit concerned that it might be fake, because
we get that a lot.
A lot
ladies,
of people, a lot of people are transitioning. Because of the boom of the industry changing, and so I pitched Barstool on doing all NBA betting content. It's like, you guys don't have an NBA person.
Yeah.
And they were interested, and then all of a sudden they hired two really great gals. Like they hired Megan Making Money and Kelly in Vegas. And I said, well, I just don't think there's going to be enough space for me here. And that's when Odyssey came and said, hey, we've got a 4-hour betting show.
I love your show.
Thank you.
It is so fun. You and Ryan are great. I haven't met your new Nick yet, but I'll meet him later tonight. But it's such a fun show. And I like that it's gambling, but it's also entertainment. And you guys just seem like you really like each other. And have fun for 4 hours a night.
Yeah, and Ryan's one of the smartest bettors I've ever met.
Okay.
Like, he just is. And he's taught me a lot in terms of just things to look at for the NFL and DVOA and adjusted line yards and all these things that I was never really analyzing and building into how I would look into a game. But he's also super funny. And so he and I think he was a little bit suspect on me when I first got there, and we still talk about it to this day on the show, because one time I told him he wasn't tall enough to dunk, and he told me he would dunk on my entire family. Just put the money up now. Put the money up now. Somebody needs to hold the $500. I will dunk on you and your entire family. I'm like, are we on the air right now? We are on the air right now. But we have a great relationship. I love him. I love the show. I love the direction that it's going.
Did you know that I tried out for your role?
No.
And I didn't get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was your audition?
It was with Ryan. And I believe it was with Q as well, actually.
Okay.
And
you did Zoom?
We did a Zoom. And it was like the most professional thing kind of I had ever done. And we played a bunch of games. And I was so nervous the whole time. This is before I had gotten anything. And I remember I definitely didn't get the first one. And then there was some kind of opening that came up later. And I didn't get it. And it's so funny because we had the same agent. And I remember when I was signing on with them and they're like, oh, Trysta got it. And I remember watching it and I was like, the right girl got it.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be someday we can do stuff together.
I
More
hope
stuff
so.
together.
So, right, let's talk Super Bowl.
Yeah, let's do it.
What do you think?
I'm on
the Chiefs.
I can't bet a side other than the fact that I took Chiefs +3.
I took Chiefs money line.
Nice, good for you. Chiefs,
I'm salty.
Chiefs +3 because it opens at 2.5, right?
Yeah.
And I bought the 3. I don't care about that. That's fine. People get very upset about buying points. I'm one of those people who just wants to win. I'm fine with -120 and winning the bet versus -110 and losing the bet.
Yeah. You don't want to buy points all the time.
Yeah. But that key number made sense for me. So that was the first bet that I placed.
Okay.
Outside of that, I think if there's going to be a rout, if there's going to be a blowout, I see it in my head like the Tampa Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl.
This is exactly what I think. I think that Tom Brady everyone was doubting him. The old dog, Patrick Mahomes, is going to come in here, and then Patrick Mahomes did not score a touchdown.
Yep.
And now Patrick Mahomes is all of a sudden the old dog that everybody's
but he's
doubting.
hobbled, right? So I'm worried about that. So I think if there's a route, if there's a blowout, I think the blowout is for the Eagles. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout.
I think it's going to be.
I think it's going to be a
Chiefs
close
win.
game.
Yeah.
I'm going to play just props.
Okay.
I'm going to stay. I lean the under of the game.
I do too.
So that kind of changes and analyze, like builds in what I've done for props. First and foremost, I'm going to take Miles Sanders over yards rushing.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's the bedrock of what the Eagles want to
Yep.
do, right? They want to run the ball.
Yep.
The Eagles stop running the ball with Miles Sanders when the game is out of hand.
Yep.
Even though I do like Kenneth Gainwell, I still think it's going to be a big Miles Sanders
Yep.
game. I don't think he's going to get less work in the second half like he has in the last 2 games, right?
Yep.
So that number, I believe I got it at 44.5, but you have to check because obviously this is going to
It's
come
up
out
every
later
day.
and
Yep.
the number
Yep.
changes. I think Jalen Hurts is going to get into the end zone.
Anytime touch. It's the fact
Anytime.
that we're getting that at plus 105
Yeah.
at plus money. He has had a rushing touchdown in 7 of his last 9 games.
Yeah. And I think the way that the Eagles run their red zone offense, too, and just little bootlegs,
Yep.
he just quarterback sneak. Even given the fact that his shoulder is a little bit,
Yeah.
they're just a running team, right? They do run in the red zone as well. So he's going to be a big part of that, I think. I think Miles Sanders getting a touchdown is
Yep.
an interesting bet. If you look at that together, that's actually plus 525.
Ooh,
Yeah,
you
so
parlaying them?
parlay them together in a one-game parlay. That's plus
Okay.
525.
Might tail that with you.
Thanks. Awesome. So the thing I think people are worried about or thinking about is, like, how much is Jalen Hurts going to pass the ball?
I take him. I have him under his passing yards.
Under 20.5 pass completions is actually plus 100.
Ooh. Well, that's better because I think it's minus 120. That's his passing yards.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
think what's 238? I didn't take
241.
that. 241.
It's high, yeah.
Yeah. So I took the under 249.5 on an alternate number.
Yep.
Shop around.
Yep.
And then I took his under pass completions as well. 20.5 is a lot. And if
I
you
don't-
look at what he's done
yeah.
the last couple of games, he
He
hasn't really
even
needed
got,
to.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't even got 200 passing yards in the last 2 games. Okay, so completions is at plus money. I love that.
Completions
I didn't
is
take that, 'cause
plus
I don't
money.
think he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. To your point, I think it's going to be a ground and pound. They're
Right.
going to run the ball.
Right. I think if you're the Eagles, you want to chew up clock.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. You want to make sure you keep the ball. Everyone knows Pat Mahomes is a magician,
Yeah.
right? He just is.
Yeah.
And
Hobbled or not.
Hobbled or not, he does things that no quarterback has ever done before or even sometimes thought about before.
Yeah.
When he's passing underneath someone's armpit, through someone's legs, he's just ridiculous. So you don't want to have him have the ball in his hand because that's when you are at a disadvantage. So
Yeah.
I think giving the ball to Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Hurts running the ball a bit, little short passes to
Yep.
Dallas Goddard
Yep.
as well. That's how I see the game script. So I like Dallas Goddard as well. Dallas Goddard's reception number is
Yep.
4.5.
Seems low.
It seems low. And even with Jalen Hurts not throwing the ball as much the last couple of games, he still has had 5 receptions. So
Yeah.
I think Dallas Goddard and tight ends are a young quarterback's best friend.
Travis Kelce to get the first touchdown
I'm on it.
for Kansas City.
Plus 650. Oh, yeah. Plus 650
650,
for
yeah.
the first one, period.
Period.
I don't know
Plus
what it is.
300 for the first
Yep.
Kansas City
Yep.
touchdown.
Mhm.
Take them both.
That's interesting, too. I have Travis Kelce to get an anytime touchdown
Yeah,
at
of
minus
course.
125.
Of
I know
course.
that sounds chalky, but
Doesn't matter.
Well, that's one of those ones that I don't really care about.
Yeah.
But here's a couple that are exotic
Oh,
to
yes.
me.
Yes.
I was adding some to the slate
Uh-huh.
when I was in my Uber ride to see you, and I think I placed 20 bets. So it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I have. I don't want to break them all down because we don't have a ton of time. First and foremost, this is not exotic, but I forgot to give this out. Isaiah Pacheco, under 48.5 rushing yards.
Yep.
Jerick McKinnon's going to be in mostly for pass blocking, so I think Jerick McKinnon's going to get most of the work.
Yep.
Pacheco, you saw last game. He could have had that one run that broke out. That was a scary one. I just don't think he's going to be the main back used
Yeah.
just because of Pat Mahomes' ankle. I have over 15.5 rushing yards for Miles Sanders in the first quarter.
Okay.
That's minus 115.
Okay.
I mean, I love Super Bowl props.
Yes.
This is incredible,
Yes.
right? It's incredible. Under 15.5 rushing yards in the first quarter for Isaiah Pacheco. Kind of goes in with the same analysis that I have. Under 24.5 rushing yards for Isaiah Pacheco in the first half. I'm very low on Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And then we have some like really interesting ones for the Chiefs. I think it's the Chiefs. Their first scoring play to be a field goal is plus 375.
Like it? Yep.
You could also get their first scoring play to be a receiving touchdown for the Chiefs at plus 325. Here's why I think the Chiefs are going to score first.
Okay.
So think about what their thought process is. We don't want to get behind to the Eagles, right? So say the Eagles win the coin toss. Eagles probably defer because they want their defense out on the field.
Yep.
That's their strong point that they want to try to test out how mobile Pat Mahomes is.
Right.
I think if the Chiefs win the coin toss, they take the ball because they want to score early. That's what they do. Andy Reid, very aggressive. So I think Chiefs, no matter what, get the ball first.
Okay.
And I think they're going to be very pressed to score, right? So I took them to field goal or touchdown, plus 325, plus 375 as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Those are some bets, sister.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Let everybody know where to find you. Obviously, you're going to be on BetMGM tonight.
Yep. You can find us on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. BetMGM tonight. That comes on 7 Eastern to 11 Eastern. Katie comes on the show.
I'll be on tonight.
All the time. She's going to be on in person, actually, which will be fun.
So
enjoy that Uber ride. It's an hour.
Yeah.
And then you can find me when it's not football season on the weekends on WFAN at nighttime right after Yankee games on Saturday nights. Podcast. It's an NBA podcast. We have a lot to talk about, obviously, with this Kevin Durant trade that just went down to the Phoenix Suns. That comes out twice weekly, wherever you get your podcast. It's called Heat Check with Trysta Krick. So I think that's pretty much all there is in terms of shows. But find me on TikTok, This Heat Check. That's where you can find like on the cuff takes, clips of the show.
Yes.
YouTube as well. You can find me on Heat Check. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh my God, thank you so much for coming.
It's fun.
Yay.
Building the perfect same-game parlay can be time-consuming, but with Quick Picks, the Caesars Sportsbook app does the work for you. Quick Picks are pre-built same-game parlays that turn today's biggest headlines, storylines, and games into bets. They're quick and easy to use, and you can't miss them. They're right on the home screen of your Caesars Sportsbook app. Give them a try, and if you haven't downloaded the app yet, register using code OMAHAFULL, and then place your first bet. If you win, congrats. If you don't, you'll get your stake up to $1,250 back as a bet credit.
Welcome back to Moxie Bets. I'm now joined with my friend Alex Monaco, host of the Better Half Hour on MSG, and Moneyline Monaco with the Volume Sports.
Let's go.
This is a gambling aficionado. So, Alex, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We used to work together every day at MSG. I miss you guys so much.
Miss you too.
I was a little mad at you.
Oh, I already know. You're going here to start.
I was a little mad at you a week ago. As everyone knows who watches this show, I am like the biggest diehard 49ers fan.
Of course.
And you got trolled by some 49ers fans, so you were feeling yourself
I got dragged by some Niner fans.
Yes. So then he goes and he posts this video after the Eagles win, and he was like, oh, Niners fans are crying. And I remember I was like, you've got to be kidding me with this take. I was like salty. But I'm over it now.
Look, you got to celebrate. In betting, you got to celebrate the wins and, try to 10-second Tom it from 51st dates with the losses and get over them fast. But, these are two of the best fan bases in the entire country going at each other. Yeah. And San Fran faithful are just as on you as Philly faithful. So I had to be a little braggadocious.
Yes,
a little bit.
Yes.
I still love the Niners, though.
So are you on the Eagles in this game?
At the moment, I am. I mean, if I wake up any differently this week, thinking otherwise, but I've gone about 8 sleeps here, feeling pretty good on this Philly team. We could talk it out, macro, micro. Here's one thing.
Okay.
Win and Katie, in the world of Vegas laying lines, do they get it wrong? They laid Chiefs minus 2.5 for a cup of coffee that night, Sunday night, and they knew, oh no, that's the wrong line. Then they hang plus 1.5. It moved a little bit.
Yeah.
But I got a line movement trend here. This is deep in the weeds, but it should be kind of telling because 18 times out of the previous 56, or however many times there have been lines, but 18 Super Bowls, they've moved the line in the direction of the line movement if you follow it. So for this one, Chiefs to Eagles, 14-4 against the spread, 16-2 straight up.
Wow.
So essentially, basically, in layman's terms, Vegas got it wrong. If you're following the correction, you would take the Eagles off this trend alone.
Do you think it was corrected, or do you think people were just hammering the Eagles?
I think it was correct.
And then it flipped?
Well, of course that happens. Sharp money comes in immediately. The syndicates, the groups that are dropping millions. But I don't know that Vegas exactly knew. You have an ankle with Mahomes. You have a shoulder with Hurt. Weird elements with Hurts and Mahomes. So maybe that was a little bit of an excused absence there to hang it a little bit wrong. But I just found that to be pretty fascinating.
That is fascinating. I'm on the Chiefs. One, I'm a little
But is that
salty
emotional?
still.
That's what I'm saying. If you're
First
you
of
gotta be careful when you're emotional.
You're an emotional bettor.
Oh, I'm a huge emotional
You're an
bettor.
emotional
But that's
bettor.
why I'm very 55%.
But here's the thing. I just feel this reminds me, and I was talking about this with Trysta earlier. This setup reminds me of the 2020 Super Bowl where it was Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes,
Right.
and Tom Brady was the old dog. Nobody believed in them, and the Bucs, the public, and everybody. It was really hard on Patrick Mahomes and myself included. I was on the wrong side of that.
Yeah.
I was on the wrong side of that. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes does not throw a single touchdown in the entire game, and they just got worked by the Bucs. And I'm like, this feels like the same thing. Now all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes is the old dog that nobody believes in. And now he could be potentially, if they win this Super Bowl and go on, maybe one of the greatest of all times, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's in that conversation,
Already.
at least right now. If I bet the Chiefs money line, first of all, the fact that I get Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs money line at plus money already, I
Right.
feel good about that.
You have to.
You have
You
to feel good
great.
about that. Exactly. And then let's say the Chiefs lose. The fact that I bet on Patrick Mahomes and bet on the Chiefs and plus money, I'm not going to bet. If I bet on the Eagles and they lose, I'm pissed.
You're Snickers hangry all week.
Snickers hangry all week.
But
yeah.
here, and I looked this up. So Mahomes, including the playoffs, he's 74-19.
Come on.
It's the great.
Come on.
He will be the most decorated winner, but against the spread, he's different. Here's the other thing
Yeah.
that makes me nervous. They weren't a good cover, Kansas City, all year.
But those were high spreads.
True, but there's never been a Super Bowl champion under a 40% cover,
Ooh,
which to me.
what a stat.
So, but again, I've been on the Humble Moneyline Monaco pod. I've been talking about you. I watch everything, and in sports radio, we're on the Mecca Radio Row. You hear these narratives,
Yeah.
and they sway your betting mind.
Right.
For instance, the Bills-Bengals week, it was all about Burrow, 3 linemen down. Well, if you did your research, Burrow's got the second fastest release to Brady
Right.
from the pocket. Shouldn't have mattered. Then the next week, you don't hear a peep about 3 linemen out. It's all about Mahomes' ankle.
Right.
Then Mahomes balls.
Yep.
Now this week, you
Yep.
don't hear the ankle at all.
Right.
And then now is all about
The
Phillies
shoulder.
played
Yeah.
or Phillies played nobody. So I'm looking at what's the narrative this week, and I feel like the blue-collar chip on their shoulder city of Philly is feeling like everyone's saying they played nobody, and I love that if I'm on Philly.
And I feel like Nick Sirianni plays into the underdog mentality with them so much. I'm like, y'all were, especially when he was listening to 8 Mile before like you were 7.5-point favorites in this game. You're not, it's not like people are doubting you.
But it's just that's their MO. That's their mindset. So you're giving them the worst team to give bulletin board material to.
Yes.
And as a San Diego kid, I finally got to go see the Phillies and the Padres. I finally saw a Philly crowd in real
rowdy.
life. They're just so diehard all in.
Yeah.
And if you sleep on them, that's when they pounce on you.
Yeah.
And I feel like this team, who only has 1 loss with Jalen Hurts all year,
Yeah.
it's the most vicious offensive,
that
defensive line.
pass rush is nasty.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, look what Reddick did in 1 play.
Yeah.
And so I'm
I like him
concerned
to
about
report a
that. And
sack.
I love
Yeah.
KC's line, but we're talking 5-6 deep for Philly on this front 7.
Yeah.
It-
All right.
It's
What do you think of the
it's a
total?
lot.
What do you think of the total?
the total. I still don't have a pulse on.
I lean under.
I
Obviously,
do
the last
lean-
4 Super Bowls went
yeah.
under. I like the under in the first half, too.
Okay.
Now, I know that Philly gets out and scores really fast. They've scored,
Oh,
I think,
yeah.
a league high of 62 points on opening drives this season. Like, they get in. But then I was also seeing a trend the other day that basically said that of the first drive in Super Bowls, of the last 23 Super Bowls, only one of them has been a touchdown.
Oh my,
14
one?
have been punts. So, and it's Jalen Hurts. He's a new quarterback in the
Right.
Super Bowl, right? And so you got to think there's like a little bit of jitters there. So I'm leaning under there, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm leaning under. Fun little
Yep.
anecdote because
Yep.
I call him Carl Under Sheffers,
Yeah.
but the ref, he's
Yeah.
ref 12 playoff games. He's 11-1 on the under by a double-digit margin. Like, he literally is the under king when
Right.
it comes, and he's ref 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls, and they've gone under.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much that sways me. Also throws the most flags in the league at 12 per, but I don't know. I think I got to go under because the public, everyone's talking over.
Yeah.
But also everyone's talking Philly, so you might be on the right side.
Well, but here's the thing. Everybody's talking over because people love points, but that
Sure.
almost doesn't happen in Super Bowls. Okay, what about prop bets? What are you looking at?
Prop bets? Well, you mentioned Philly in the first half.
Yes.
I have to do it.
Okay.
I mean, 15 W's on the year, 2 of them with Minshew. They win their first 7 on the year convincingly in the first half. They're averaging like 18.5 in the first half.
The only time that they did not cover the first half is when I bet them. Maybe
Was
this
it
is
the
why I'm
Texans
salty.
game?
Yes.
I bet it too. I was on a plane.
That was the first and only time that I bet them in the first half, and I was like, you know what?
And they were 7-0 before that.
Yeah, and then the Texans. You thought that was like a
Texans.
slam dunk. And that's the crazy thing about betting is that any given Sunday, you know, you guys hear this all the time, anything can happen.
Yeah. And
why I
but
think-
I mean I'm looking at these numbers for the first half. I mean, Katie, 28 and 21 points on the Giants and the Niners in the first half in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
I mean, the Chiefs had 17 and 13 respectively. If this becomes that style, I don't know how you don't take the Eagles in the first half. Even on the
First
money
half.
line, a little bit of
First half.
juice, but my goodness, to put up 28 and 20, I'm more looking at the Niners game. To control, and this is the narrative,
You can't
like,
look at the Niners game because we didn't have a quarterback.
but defensive, what they did on the offensive side in a quick
But
30 minutes.
But you also can't. Don't even get me started
Okay,
on this. You
okay, I
also
won't.
can't say that because if you don't have a quarterback, then you don't have an offense. We didn't have an offense, and then you look at the amount of pressure that puts on a defense. They were on the field the entire time. We were able. Me as a part of the team.
I love it.
The Niners were able to hold them in the first half until Josh Jacobs. Once that fumble happened, I was like, it's all
That's
over.
true. Fumble was everything.
But that's this narrative that a bunch of Philly fans are like, oh, we put up 31 points on the number 1 defense. I'm like, y'all, yes, if you just look at the score, that's what it is. But the defense played the entire game. The second half, we couldn't even throw the ball.
No, it's not a great game to sit on
So you
and
can't-
speak on.
Oh, well, okay, then let's not.
But we won't.
let's
We
not.
won't. But I will
Okay.
say, to outscore your opponents by 55 points in 2 weeks, whether you played nobody or somebody in the NFL,
Yeah.
it's an incredible feat, and it's the biggest point differential in the history of these 2 weeks. I've never seen a team that's done this still slept on more, and this is how I look at
Fair.
the prop,
Fair.
bringing it back to that.
Oh, yes.
To put up at least 20 points 12 times this year.
Yep.
And they're undefeated at home against playoff teams, just for what it's worth, 4-0.
They're not home anymore.
If they're going to win this game, Katie, they have to win the first half. Because if the Chiefs come out, they dictate tempo and pace, and
Yep.
Andy Reid off a bye, all
Yep.
that starts to click. And Philly, we haven't seen them play from behind. So that does trouble me a little, but that's why I'm leaning Eagles first half. You don't love them to win first half. It's at 13 at total points.
Yeah.
I would go over.
Okay, I like that. What else you got?
I think Pacheco, this rookie,
Pacheco, I love him.
but the receiving yards more than the rushing yards, because no one runs on Philly unless you're named Christian McCaffrey. But so this is going to get a little bit in the weeds, but he got the highest snap share for pass downs last week or last game.
Yep.
He was out there 22 to 15 to McKinnon. Season high receptions and yards last week. McKinnon's got an ankle. CEH was just activated. He's young. He's shifty. He's fast.
Yep.
And in the defensive game plan for Philly, are they going to focus a ton on Pacheco? He's probably an afterthought. Let's stop the passing game. But because of the front four pressure, he's going to be running. Remember when Mahomes ran for 400 or 500 yards against the Bucs, but it was behind the line of scrimmage?
Yes.
If he does that,
with his ankle,
he's going to Pacheco.
Yeah.
Many a time. So you could go over on receptions for him.
Okay, love that.
But I like him over 15.5.
Okay.
And I think we got to go Mahomes over passing yards here.
Hell yeah.
I mean, he's done this. 10 of the last 11 Sundays, he's gone for more than 320 for some reason.
Yep.
But again, this is a susceptible pass defense.
Yep.
And even though Darius Slay is on the volume, I don't want to, that's the only the pass D's. The
Slay and Bradbury are ridiculous.
They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're top two corners in the league.
100%.
But I just think Mahomes is going to have to move the ball, and that's.
What do you think? I'm taking Jalen Hurts under his passing yards.
That's the move.
Because one, it's 241.5. He hasn't even got to 200 in the last 2 games because they don't have to. Because to your point, they run the ball.
Right.
And they run the ball well. I like him for an anytime touchdown. The fact that we're getting him at plus 105 for an anytime touchdown, he's had rushing touchdown in 7 of the last 9 games. If you bet Jalen Hurts for an anytime touchdown in every single game he played this season, 65%. Yeah. Take him for any time.
I sneakily think, not the most glamorous, but Gainwell at over 18.5 or 19.5, depending where you shop. Caesars here.
Yep.
He goes 14 for 48 against the Niners. The most carries.
Yeah.
He went 12 for 112 against the Giants. So his last 2 weeks, he's doubled and quadrupled 18.5, and they're a rotation back. They're not a bell cow backfield leaning on Sanders. So I think that's a criminally low number for a guy who could essentially get that in one run. And then last one, fun one.
Okay, last one, fun one.
Philly special happened, Katie, last Super Bowl. How do we not fire on Caesars on a non-quarterback touchdown? I don't know if it's going to be Trey Burton of Foles-esque because Hurts is way more of an athlete. You're not going to not guard Jalen Hurts if he goes out.
Right.
But I think something's
what are the odds?
in the Sirianni air. I mean, depending where you shop, I saw it at plus 2,200 on some places.
Woo.
So it's a nice little, your Uber Eats and out over here if you cash it. But I think you got to go fun.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a Gatorade color coin flip guy.
Yeah.
I think a non-quarterback touchdown's a good way to.
Are you firing on any of those like exotics, like coin toss, national anthem, Rihanna's outfits?
Not really. No, I haven't. I mean, the Gatorade color's fun. I keep
yellow.
I keep seeing purple for some reason. I don't know why.
I correctly guessed it last year.
You did?
Well, because I knew the Rams were going to. I thought the Rams were going to win the game. Yeah. It was in LA. And LA, we both lived in LA for a long time, like just narcissism, right? At home, team, blue.
That's top shelf capping right there.
Blue. And by the way, it hit, and I was like, I am the smartest person alive because I figured this out.
That is a brilliant way to come
But I
about
do
that.
think that yellow is this year because I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. And at the AFC Championship game, they poured Gatorade on Andy Reid, and it was yellow.
Wow. Real quick, no one's talking about Andy Reid versus old team because it's Kelsey versus Kelsey.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating narrative.
Yeah.
And I just found this out this week. Sirianni was on the Chiefs staff when Reid came to town, and Reid told them to take a hike.
Really?
Apparently. Or Sirianni's services were not needed.
Mm-hmm.
That's some Philly bulletin board material.
Who do you give the coaching edge to?
Well, Andy Reid.
Yeah.
But in 2 weeks, off a bye. That's what's nerve-wracking. I've talked with some athletes. Everything's going to be covered. But what you can't cover is this pass rush.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And on that note, Alex Monaco, let everybody know where to find you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for the plug.
Please.
So I'm on MSG Networks, Better Half Hour. It's on, of course, MSG, DirecTV, and Fubo, if you have Fubo out there. 5 o'clock Eastern. And then I'm on Volume Sports, Moneyline Monaco podcast. That's about 5 times a week. So,
Let's
and we're
go.
live on Amazon Amp. So
Let's go.
Got to plug that. But
All
yeah,
right.
that's where I'm at. And then Moneyline Monaco on all things social.
Yes, exactly. All right, this has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook. We'll see you Friday.
See you guys.